My name is Rene Hopper, and I am a lead coach. Basically, I do a lot of professional development, and I work with buildings with school improvement plan. I have been teaching for 22 years. I've taught first grade, third grade, fourth grade, and also am a graduate of USD 259 and have two kids who go to USD 259. I have a son in Wilbur and a son here at Northwest. We're going today to be learning about our instructional protocol. In Wichita, because we are such a huge district of over 50,000 students, it's really important that we have some things in place as far as systems. We also want to guarantee that when kids move from school to school to school, whether it's a transition from an elementary to a middle school or a transition from a different school to another school within our district, that they're guaranteed the same high quality instruction. And instruction is where it all is at. No matter what curriculum you use, instruction is what makes children learn. And so we will get started with that in just a minute. We do have some handouts for you, so I'm going to ask my panelists to come up and help pass these out. And while you are doing that, we do not do sit and get, because that's bad instruction, right? So this is going to have lots of processing time. So you will need to find a shoulder partner. So you're going to need, if you're sitting by yourself, you're going to need to make a friend today. So find a friend, decide who's going to be partner A and who is going to be partner B. Go ahead. So to get started and to kind of start our thinking around instruction and also to collaborate with your partner, I would like for you to share with your partner the answer to this question or to this statement. One of the reasons I am excited to be here is blank. So I asked you to decide who is partner A and who is partner B. So if you are partner A, raise your hand. Did you guys decide that? Partner B, raise your hand. All right, partner A, you're going to start this conversation. 15 years ago, I was in your seat. I moved here back home from California, where I had been teaching for 8 years, and was going to be a fourth grade teacher at Park Elementary. And it's such an exciting time, an exciting day to get started with your career with USD 259. So our content and literacy objectives today, our content objectives are, we're going to understand the purpose of the instructional protocol, determine evidence-based strategies to plan and teach with, and learn about what are our district's lesson plan requirements. For our literacy objectives, we're going to participate in collaborative conversations about evidence-based strategies and foster some professional relationships. One of the things you'll find in our district is CHAMPS. How many of you guys are familiar with CHAMPS from your student teaching, right? Well, we also use them in our professional development with adults. So the first one conversation, voice level 0 when others are presenting, a voice level 1 when you are working with your partner, and a 2 if we are speaking out to the group. If you need help, you can raise your hand, and I'm going to ask Libby is in the back, and she will come help you. And then, like I said, I will use an attention signal, which is, may I have your attention, please, to bring you back together after you're done having your conversations. We are going to be getting introduced to our instructional requirements for our district. If you could keep your cell phone and electronics out of sight or just use them to help your learning, to enhance your learning, make sure they're on silence or vibrate. And also take care of your own personal needs. If you need to take a phone call or text, you can go ahead and step out the back doors, and you all know where the bathrooms are if you need to use those. Participate, focus on the content, participate fully in the learning, smile and collaborate and network, and then we have our AB partners. You have a handout that looks like this. On one side of your handout is the instructional protocol, which we'll look at in a minute, but on the other is a DOTS chart. A DOTS chart is a really great strategy. This is something you can use in your classroom. With younger students, primary, I probably would use it more as a teacher-led, but you can also use it in any of the specials classes with music. So as you are learning this today and using this today, think about how you might apply this within your own classroom. But the DOTS chart has a representation. D stands for determine, and it's determine what you already know. Everybody comes into this room. Some of you are experienced teachers. You came to this district from somewhere else. Others of you, this is your first year. So you come with a lot of learning already, a lot of knowledge. So determine. O is make observations about what you're learning. T is talk. You're going to talk to your friends about it. And then S is summarize your learning at the end. So we're going to use this today for our learning. So the first thing you're going to do is when you think about good instruction, whether as a teacher or as a participant, what do you know already about quality instruction? So our topic is quality instruction. So write that at the very top. So if I'm doing a unit in my class on a certain sport or a certain genre of music or a certain topic in science, this would be where we would put the topic at the very top. The second thing is that you work with a partner and think about what do you already know about this topic. What are all the things you know? So when I think about quality instruction, one of the things I think about is I need to find out what my kids know. I need to determine what do they know and what do they need to know. So I would put that under D, determine what my students know. It might be a pre-assessment. It might be using a dots chart. Another thing I know about good instruction is that it requires planning. So under the P, I put planning because I know that that is required in order for there to be quality instruction. We're going to really quickly go through this instructional protocol piece by piece. So if you flip over the Wichita Public Schools instructional protocol, at the very top you see the purpose. A pre-K framework for equitable and aligned instruction for all general education, inclusion, special education, and ESOL classrooms to maximize student achievement. One thing that is important about this is aligned to the Marzano evaluation system that you will be evaluated on this year. So this is something you do want to have handy and keep in your plan book somewhere as you're planning so that you can connect and show evidence when you're getting your evaluation. And so that's how this is all connected. We have here 4 big overarching themes, but we're going to look at the bottom one first. We have professional responsibilities. That's the foundation of this, is those professional responsibilities. Then we have conditions for learning, standards-based planning, standards-based instruction, and last, lesson design. So we're going to chunk through this. So the first one is standards-based planning. We know that we need to be looking at our standards, which are found on KSDE, Kansas State Department of Education, right? And that we should be planning with those in mind, with the end in mind. What do we want our kids to walk away with? No matter what curriculum we use, the standards are really what we want to be teaching. Take a minute to skim and scan the bullet points. Make sure you add at least 2 or 3 things to your dots chart if you can. I heard words pop out like differentiation, engagement, active engagement, were some of the things I heard people talk about as I walked around. And so that would be our standards-based planning, and a well laid out plan is going to set us up for success. The next piece we're going to look at is lesson design, which is in the middle. What's important about this is that these are the 4 requirements for lesson planning in Wichita, which are content and literacy objectives, opening, work time, and closing. So as you think about the layout of your lesson plans, those are the 4 things that it needs to include. We're going to look at is one that, in my opinion, I believe with all my heart, it is the most important, and that is conditions for learning. Conditions for learning is what we should be focused on our first few weeks of school. When you think about teachers that made impacts on you in your life, it's because there was good conditions for learning. You had a relationship with them. So conditions for learning is one that we want to make sure that we're looking at the whole child, that we're really focused on developing relationships, setting those procedures, all of those things that make, if those are not set up at the beginning of the school year, what happens? It's hard to get it back, right? So really important stuff there. The last, or not the last box, but one of our goals that Alicia Thompson talks about is that we really want to make sure that our students achieve 3rd grade reading proficiency. And that starts in kindergarten and 1st grade and 2nd grade, right? So a lot of weight on that. We know that this standards-based instruction box, that's where that has to happen. Throughout this year, those of you who go to NTI, is there a network this year at all? Not this year. Okay, so NTI, those of you who are brand new college to classroom teachers, you'll go to something called New Teacher Induction this year, and you will learn more about these components throughout this school year. The last piece is the professional responsibility, and professional responsibilities is at the bottom, and those include observe school and district policies and procedures, continue expertise in content and pedagogy, and encourage teacher leadership and collaboration. And so those would be the professional responsibilities portion of the instructional protocol. So the last thing we're going to do is, when we talk about a DOTS chart, we have, this is considered the frame around here. So on the frame, I want you to write somewhere standards-based planning, standards-based instruction, lesson design, and conditions for learning. Just those 4 somewhere around the frame, so that we keep in mind the 4 big categories that we talked about. All right, we're going to transition. You're going to still need your DOTS chart, but we're going to transition into a teacher panel. So the way this will work here in a minute is I'm going to put a question up on the screen, and we'll have one of our lovely friends here will answer that for us. And then you will add notes to your DOTS chart, things that pop up that they say around instruction and such. And I would say that even if you are an experienced teacher, if you've not taught in a high urban, high poverty district, there are things that are very different. And so, take notes as well about some of the ideas that they have. So I think they need to introduce themselves. So we'll start here.
Hi, I'm Jamie Tonin. I know some of you, and you're just some great student teachers that are now teachers. I have been teaching at Isley. This is going to be my 10th year, and I teach kindergarten. So I'll be answering kind of from that viewpoint.
Hi, I'm Gina Jacobs, and this will be my 18th year teaching. I've been doing pre-K for the last 14 years, and this will be my first year at Price Harris.
Hi, I'm Alice Morris. I am at Anderson Elementary. This will be my 6th year teaching. I taught first grade, and I am now teaching 2nd grade.
And I'm Holly Morgan, and I'm starting my 17th year. I just finished teaching kindergarten, but I've also taught first grade, 5th grade, 4th grade. I was a school librarian for 3 years, and I'm starting a new role as a coach at Irving Elementary this year.
Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the first question. What is one piece of advice that you have for building relationships the first week of school?
I can start with that one. One of my tried and true strategies is a morning meeting with my students. I think it's really critical for building those relationships, having them get to know you and you getting to know them. I mean, I do it for the entire year, but it's one of the first things that I teach them, and it's something that they begin to rely on is they're getting to know their classmates. So I would start with just a fun little greeting and some energy. It's very easy to tell right away who's maybe had a bad start to their morning maybe, or a bad night the night before. And then after we do a greeting, we do a little bit of sharing. Great opportunity for oral language at that stage. And then we do a little activity. It can be academic-based or social-emotional activity, and then a morning message. So that's one of my key go-tos for relationship building.
So I think it's real important, first of all, just to always remember the first week to be kind and be approachable. And we do a lot of team building the first week also. One of my favorites is find someone who, and I really try to be culturally responsive. And what I mean by that is just that know the socioeconomic status of your kids in your school, and I know that ours is very low. And so when we're doing a find someone who activity, I might not put a question on there like, where did you go on vacation this summer? I might rephrase that with, what was a fun trip you went on this summer? Because the vacation for my kids was a trip to the park or to the zoo. so if you do have students that actually went on a national or international vacation, they'll know and they can put that on there too. But just be mindful of your students when you're planning those team building activities the first week.
As my students come into the classroom, a lot of them are very nervous. This might be the first time away from their parents. I'm going to be looking at their backpacks. I'm going to be looking at their clothes, at their shoes, to see if there's any characters on those items. And so I can make a connection with them through that, watching movies, the cartoons. And that's one way that my students will start to open up and say, oh, my teacher knows this person. And they'll start talking to me a little bit more.
My advice would be kind of piggybacking on what some of they already said, but my advice would be to start each day. It sounds really simple and silly, but with a smile and some sort of greeting so that they feel welcome. It could be like high five, handshake, fist bump, hug, any of those things. And then also at the very beginning of the year, allow time to share about yourself. So we do, like all about me posters. We'll all fill one out as the teacher. And then kind of introduce myself to them, but then give them the reverse, give them time to talk about themselves so you can get to know them. And all those kind of get to know you games and things that people mentioned, good times to do those would be during your class meetings, like Holly said, and then also throughout the day as breaks. Just kind of keep doing them in the beginning, would be my advice.
So one of my jobs before I got my teaching certificate in California was in a private school, and I was a PE teacher. So for your specials teachers, it's names, right? Yeah, and I was outdoor. We didn't have a gym. We were outdoor, and I had a class during lunch recess. So, but it's names, right? Learning names of however many hundreds of children, right? Hundreds of kids. And so that would be my advice for PE teachers, is come up with a way, whether it's, some schools make kids wear name tags, some schools don't. What is your trick? How are you going to learn the names of your students quickly? So that way, because it's really hard to be like, hey, you, when they're running around, you got kindergartners everywhere, right? So what is your trick? What are you going to do for that? All right, next question. How do you explicitly teach your behavioral expectations to ensure an emotionally safe learning environment? And start us off, Jamie.
So on the very first day, all of this should start, right then, right when they come in. So from carpet time rules to seat rules, hallway, bathroom, all of that in a fun way can be covered from the get-go. And then the best thing to do is model. So just model. We're on the carpet and it looks like I'm crisscross, it sounds like my voice is quiet, and then let people be the role model and show that and really, cheer for them and talk it up. And same thing for even how to walk to the line or what you do at the bathroom or your hallway expectations. So we do a lot of looks like, sounds like. We use chants, the voice level scale, and then I really love, once you get into second step, or some of you that maybe student taught in the district, there's listening rules within that, and they have motions that go with them. So eyes watching, ears listening, voice quiet, body still. Those are fabulous for, at least I can speak to the pre-K, kindergarten, first, I don't know, second, my degree age. But all of those things just right off the bat, and a lot of modeling.
Exactly what she said. However, in pre-K, we're going to use a lot of pictures also to go along with that modeling. We're going to do some non-examples and examples so they can see the difference. But yeah, everything she said.
And just to piggyback off of them, it's all the same thing, except that just give those positive reinforcers all continually as you're doing your modeling. Positives. Great job.
And I would also say, when they're not successful at first, because it'll take a lot of practice for them, just look for those good opportunities to correct and reteach. It's not a bad thing. It's not about consequences. It's just they just need some more practice. So you might be noticing that they, ran to the carpet instead of walked. So you might say, I noticed some students were we're running instead of walking. Why is it not safe to run? Why should we walk instead? So just some of those just good opportunities to correct and reteach.
And for our specials teachers, when do we find most misbehaviors? It's at recess and in transitions. And when kids are coming to you, they're coming from a transition, right? So how are they going to enter your room? What are the expectations once they get there? How are you going to have that procedure all planned out, set up, and how are they going to practice that? All right, the next question is, what engagement strategies do you use in your lessons to get students listening, speaking, reading, and writing? So I'm going to just see who, anybody? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller?
My big strategy is for listening in kindergarten is I do low and slow. So when I'm going to present some content that's extremely important for them to focus on, I make my voice much quieter and I speak very slowly, and that's just kind of their signal, hey, this is important. So vary how you're speaking to the students depending on what kind of content you're presenting. So that's a big one for listening. I also love to use whiteboards. It's hugely engaging for students for the writing component. And baby socks make great whiteboard erasers. So at Walmart, just buy a bunch of packs of baby socks and they love them.
In pre-K, I do not focus a whole lot of writing in a whole group. We do that more in our smaller groups. However, with listening and speaking, I just try to get them talking to their partner, just like you guys are doing here. A little bit more than that is too much for some of my little ones. And I try to do a lot of repeating. So I say, then you say, just so they're getting that chance.
So for listening, speaking, reading, writing, we use total participation techniques all the time, which are just kind of like collaborative learning strategies, or if you've heard of like Kagan strategies, so things like look around or pass is one that I like, or four corners. So these are just ways to get your kids having to listen to either a partner or a little group and also speak during that time, and then you can tie in any sort of writing or reading that you would like with these activities. Specifically for listening, my mind goes again to those second step rules, like we're getting our body ready for listening at the beginning of each thing we do. And then I did want to say for writing whiteboards, like she said, and then in kindergarten, a lot of like tactile tracing opportunities for things like their name or the letters, or use of like Play-Doh even at the beginning when they can't really write yet, but they can form those letters, or they don't know how to spell their name, things like that.
Our next question. What strategies do you use to check for understanding of critical content throughout a lesson?
So one super simple thing to do is thumbs up, thumbs down, which is like they could be showing you they agree, disagree, or correct, incorrect. Or if you've heard of like yes, no cards, it'll say yes on one side and no on the other. So you would pose a question and then they can quickly be showing you their yes or no. Whiteboards, like have been mentioned a couple of times, is a great way during like math or forming letters to show quick answers, and you can do a quick check for understanding. Yeah.
So all the same strategies that you said, but I think it's just important sometimes just to tell them this is important, and so they know. And I use my voice when I use my voice going up and going down just to get their attention, and also just giving them time to think about the critical content. Don't be afraid to just stop and give them that think time, because it's important for them to process.
And I think just be intentional when you're making your lesson plans. Figure out some good, stopping points during your lesson where you like them to stop and do some processing. So teaching in chunks so that they can process throughout the lesson rather than at the end.
And then the next question, in what ways do you differentiate and scaffold for your diverse learners? I'm assuming you guys have diverse learners? Yes, yes. So How do you guys, what do you do? How do you differentiate? How do you scaffold? What are some ideas you could share?
I use a lot of sentence stems in kindergarten to get them started, and word banks are really good to use. Also, I have kids answer orally a lot of times rather than in writing. So just those are a couple ways I do it.
Another one is I front load vocabulary for them. I think that's real important. Just the visuals, small groups, reduce options for your diverse learners. Also word banks, and as you said, stems, give them stems. And for enrichment too, those are our diverse learners also. So maybe take away some of those things for them because they don't need them. They don't need the stem or the word bank.
Using lots of manipulatives for those children, using picture cards or some kind of Velcro to go along with the activity for those children.
I was just going to mention that when you think about differentiation, it may not be only academically. That's going to be like your big where you're differentiating all the time during groups or centers or things of that nature. But think about the behavioral ways that you may be differentiating, and some students are going to need a special plan or breaks or special interventions just for them to be successful throughout the day. So keep that in mind. This may not be an only academic thing to think about, and maybe even medically, someone needs to go to the bathroom and the nurses talk to you that they're going to need to go more often. So you're going to be differentiating in all sorts of ways would be my advice.
Yeah, and as far as specialists go, some of the things I've seen, Bill Schrant at Horseman does background knowledge. Well, he'll show a video of people playing badminton because guess what? A lot of kids don't know what badminton is, and have vocabulary ahead of time that goes along with whatever the concept or skill that is that they're learning. And same with music. If there's vocabulary in music, how are you going to pre-teach that? What does that look like for those students who maybe are low language learners or ESOL learners? This next question is, what is your favorite strategy that you utilize in the closing of your lessons?
One thing that's a lot of fun to do is what stuck with you today, and just on a sticky note, really easy, they can either write or draw something that stuck with them. Also kind of one way for like holding accountability. I know someone mentioned already about like shoulder partners, or you did when you were speaking. So I like to give everybody, they have a peanut butter and jelly partner, just because it's a little more fun, and we'll say peanut butter jelly time, like stuff like that, and they turn to talk. Well, to hold them accountable at the closing of the lesson, if you have them paraphrase what their partner says to them, it's just that next layer of thinking, and then they're having to, they know what they know what their partner knows, and they're sharing with everyone, so that's kind of.
I just have my kids think about, what are you going to go home and tell your mom or your dad today, grandma or grandpa? That way, when those parents do ask, what did you do at school today? I've already prepared them for that answer.
And my favorite closing is to just do a quick whip around, but I also like to try to tell them ahead of time, in a few minutes, we're going to be whipping around. So be thinking about one thing you can tell me you learned today, or whatever my question is that's going to be whipping around.
I use a strategy called chalkboard splash, and so you can use whiteboards or picture paper or chart paper, and each student gets their own section, and then they can draw or write their own thinking or any other important ideas, and then we do a little gallery block, and the students walk around and look at each other's, and then I pull them back together and kind of talk about similarities and differences and some surprises that they notice in their friends' work.
So kind of along with this, how do you guys not run out of time for the closing? Right?
If you do, you just
Any
say,
strategies?
I think you really have to intentionally plan, because you will run out of time if you don't. Set a timer until you can really get that down. So I used a timer for the first few years, and sometimes I still do.
All right, and we're going to have one more question, How does USD 259 meet your needs in continuing to build your expertise in content and pedagogy?
I love all the technology classes that are offered, whether it's a virtual PD, a blended setting, or just going somewhere to attend a class. I've gotten some of my best PD from the technology department. I also think there's just a lot of opportunities for teaming, whether it's your grade level team or vertical team or your building leadership team. There are always opportunities for growth and development in that way.
I think because I've taught less than in the last years than any of these ladies up here, so I'm just finishing up with my Marzano observations. And I think reflect on those. Sometimes it's a little hard not to take it personal, but it's not, it's really not. Think of it as a positive, use your evaluations as a positive, and really think about the feedback that you're getting. The other thing for me is that for continuing my learning, I love that USD 259 partnered with Baker College so we can continue our higher level of learning like grad school, which I'm currently doing.
Not being afraid to ask questions and know who you can go to. Just like she said, there's so many different teams. There's going to be those peer mentors that you guys have, and other classroom teachers. Ask the questions and listen to their answers.
So I think this is a really good district for providing all those opportunities. So it'll look for them through like your professional development, your PD time at school, your team time with your teammates, all the in-service days they're gonna hit things like this. And then your school, I mean, most schools dig a little deeper, whether it's through PD or in-service or whatever, in all the Marzano knowledge, and it can be a little bit overwhelming, but the good part about it is you'll kind of focus on maybe your opening, the work time closing while looking at those Marzano, and it'll give you specific ideas or strategies that you can take away and try. So that's one way I felt like maybe the last 2 years at my building that I've gained more knowledge about content pedagogy. And then just use your instructional coach at your building, or if you have a peer consultant, even your principal. These are all people. Look at your email and read the flyers that are sent out to you, you know, for maybe a journeys training or a technology training, like Holly said. Just kind of all of those things are ways that USD 259 will keep providing those opportunities.
So yeah, and I would reiterate that too. Find out who is your building coach. Find out their name, get their email, get their cell phone number. They are the best resource. They are right there for you. Specials teachers, you have a coach. You have either Diane Smith or someone who is your area specialty coach. You will get professional development, I believe, monthly around your content area and with that person. But I would also say reach out to other folks who are teaching the same content area that you are teaching. Collaborate with those folks, share ideas and lessons, because it can be really hard being the only music teacher in a school or the only PE teacher in a school and not having someone that you can collaborate. So make relationships when you guys go to new teacher induction or when you are getting together with those who are like-minded. Develop those relationships. Your dots chart might look something like mine, where you have different things. So pull out your dots chart, several things in every box. This is where it gets really important. The power of this structure comes into play. Okay, this is where you have to go with this. Don't stop just by writing things in boxes. But the first thing we have to do, you know how you wrote around the frame, those different words? You wrote conditions for learning or standards-based planning. We're going to make connections to those big ideas. So for instance, a connection I can make is that building relationships is connected to conditions for learning, right? And when I'm done, it might look something crazy like this. Like you may have lots and lots of connections. But go ahead and make at least 8 connections to different things around the outside of it. Draw an arrow to connect those. What's funny about this strategy is some people just love it, and then there's other people who are like, no, it's too chaotic. I can see he's like, never, no. My OCD won't let me. Your final job is, using a few of the words inside your boxes, complete the sentence stem. Quality instruction is. And then use the words in your box to create a statement and write it either at the bottom of your page or somewhere on another piece of paper. And then we're going to have a few of you share out. And you might get nominated by your partner, so be ready. Okay, who wants to nominate themselves or their partner? Okay. You have to stand up nice and loud. This is Matt Lewis, PE.
All right, so I think quality instruction is data-driven, flexible, intentional, motivates all students, and is understandable to all students.
Nice. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. I think I saw a hand over here. I see 2 hands, 1 and 2. And you are?
Darren, music.
Darren, music, all right.
Quality instruction is assessment.
Quality instruction is assessment. All right, thank him for sharing. Thank you. You guys are making me get my steps in.
Quality instruction is the foundation in order to be a good teacher.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Let's thank you. You didn't say your name.
Oh, Laura Wagers.
Laura. Thank you, Laura. Let's give her a round of applause. And one more. And then I'm going to share mine.
Nick Williams, albeit colder than a pain. I've got one for myself and one from a famous person from the past. Quality instruction is practicing proactive professionalism. But I've got one from, I think it was President Reagan's Chief of Staff, James Baker. His motto that he used to help keep the White House in order was, prior planning prevents poor performance.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, very good. And for me, quality instruction is you. You are the factor in it. It starts with the teacher. It doesn't matter what program, what curriculum. It's all about the teacher teaching it. And we are so excited for you to begin this journey here at USD 259.